Good morning, Dan and Amy. I'll tell you, this is a confusing election cycle. Did you see this story? Just as a quick aside, Glenn Beck has gone full rodeo clown.
Well, what did he do?
He always described himself as a rodeo clown. And when somebody describes himself that way, I believe them. New Yorker did a little interview with him. I did a lot of freaking out about Barack Obama, but said Beck, quote, Obama made me a better man. He regrets calling the president racist and counts himself a Black Lives Matter supporter.
Really? Okay.
There are
Is he
things
just trying
you
to
need
be provocative here, or
He's a rodeo clown. He's a goof. There are things unique to the African American experience that I cannot relate to. I had to listen to them. There you go. So file that away. Glenn Beck said he was a rodeo clown when people tell you who they are. Believe them. And that's also Ralph Peters. What's going on? Ralph Peters
is voting for Hillary Clinton.
Listen to Ralph Peters make the argument in terms of, I mean, it's one of the more curious arguments you're going to hear, but I guess it's an argument a lot of people are making on both sides of the ledger.
Stuart, I think Hillary Clinton is despicable. She has committed criminal acts. She's greedy. She's corrupt. And yes, I'm going to vote for her. I'm going to vote for Republicans down the ballot, but I'm voting for Hillary Clinton because it's a vote against Donald Trump. I don't want Moscow's man in the White House.
That's absurd. The whole Moscow's man thing is so absurd. Yeah. I mean, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, I have tremendous respect for. We had on the show many times.
Yeah.
But come on. He just said the person he's voting for President of the United States has committed criminal acts.
Well, she put our national security in jeopardy. Well, and that's why I'm surprised any members of the military have voted, because I know one by a retired colonel who voted for Hillary Clinton as well.
Ralph Peters went further than that. Didn't say, put our national security. Committed criminal acts. Well, let's stay right there, because now we're pleased to be joined by former Assistant Director of the FBI, James Kallstrom. Mr. Kallstrom, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So you were on with Jeanine Pirro right after Comey made his announcement a week ago Friday that he was going to, that he was reopening the investigation effectively, this computer that was owned by Huma Abedin and her husband, the emails and so forth. And you said at the time you expected something big was going to break in that case. Did you expect the big thing that was going to break in the case would it be Comey to re-clear Hillary Clinton 48 hours before the election?
Well, first off, I said many, many times, there's no way that Hillary Clinton's ever going to be indicted by anybody, as long as Obama's the president. They'll never authorize a grand jury. The FBI will never have the tools necessary to do a thorough investigation. I was a little bit surprised of him reopening it. I thought that there was some pretty nasty stuff on that computer. But, when you think about it, in retrospect, I was probably a little too optimistic. What they left on the table the first time around in that hollow investigation that really wasn't an investigation was, she had numerous top-secret code word documents. Those are the most sensitive documents we have in the United States. Back in World War II, people were executed for getting any of that stuff out in the public domain. And they just sort of nonchalantly left that on the table, along with perjury to the Congress, along with the destruction of evidence after being served with a subpoena, obstruction of justice, violations of the Federal Records Act, conspiracy, and then of course WikiLeaks has shown the public that cares enough about our country to actually inform themselves of facts. That the whole thing is a cabal, the Clinton Foundation, the DNC, the Hillary campaign, these so-called journalists that work for CNN, the major networks, they're all part of it. They're all basically card-carrying members of the DNC.
Yeah, but how could the FBI go through 650,000 emails in just 4 to 5 days?
They can't. I mean, that's a joke. I mean, they have keyword searching.
Yeah.
No question about that. So they can put in a bunch of keywords and make piles, but there's no way that they can seriously look at all that stuff. And the leads that it's going to, just the fact of things that are classified and may not have the markings on them, I'm sure Hillary had her staff remove any markings. that stuff has to go back to the originating agency, whether it be the CIA or NSA or whoever it may be, to verify what the actual classification is. That takes a long time. So that whole thing is basically a farce in my view.
Well, so in terms of somebody who's an expert in this area, experienced in this area, we're talking to James Kallstrom, former assistant director of the FBI. Why does Comey reopen the thing 10 days out, only to close it? Only to kind of go through this faux process you're describing and then close it? Because the supposition was him reopening it, he had to know there was something substantial. Otherwise, why would he go on a fishing expedition that would ultimately sort of embarrass him, right? I mean, it just doesn't the logic doesn't work.
That's the $64,000 question. I can't seem to get into his mind because he's done such illogical things. From the very beginning, he's got to realize, and apparently he hasn't realized, that he's the FBI director. He's not the deputy attorney general. He's not the attorney general. And for him to take the political decision off of the attorney general after that foolish, idiotic move she made to be on the plane with him, to then come out and say, that he's going to make this decision after laying out parts of the case against her. That's not the job of the FBI director. He threw the FBI under the bus, and he took the heat off the Justice Department so they can just sit over there. The rule of law is on life support, and it's laying in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue between the two buildings.
So, as a career FBI man, where's the agency now, and what happens after tonight's result, regardless of what the result is?
Well, I think it's in tremendous turmoil. The notion that the FBI was, Trump land, that's nonsense. Agents joined to be part of the solution for the citizens of this country to keep the rule of law going, due process going, to deal with criminals of all sorts. Hillary Clinton has violated so many federal statutes. I think Rudy Giuliani said 12. But, and some of those are horrendous. The latest thing with the maid having access to, stuff right up to top secret. That is absolutely unbelievable. And, the notion that she could be the president of the United States, to me, is just so offensive. But, I don't know where it's all going. If she's the president, whether Obama will pardon her or she'll pardon herself, or the Congress, which has been basically, has no leadership. I don't know what they'll do about it, whether they'll impeach her or not.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, James. What's next in this investigation? Or is it completely closed because he came out and said there's no new charges?
No, I don't think it's completely closed. I think if Mr. Trump wins and puts in an attorney general like Rudy Giuliani or someone, an experienced prosecutor, I suspect you're going to see grand juries impaneled in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. But we'll have to deal with the people Obama pardons and the other issues. But no, I don't think it's over with.
And do you believe there is still an ongoing investigation into the Clinton Foundation?
Well, I just don't know, but it would seem to be that there is. I know for a fact that justice has tried to shut it down on numerous occasions. Whether or not agents are still out there investigating it, I really can't say. But the Clinton Foundation, back in the 1980s when I was in New York, we brought to its knees La Cosa Nostra, the mafia, all five families, through the RICO laws. We arrested all the hierarchy. We seized all their assets, all their companies, the garbage rackets, the food racket, the concrete business, over and over again. That case, the Clinton Foundation makes that case look like a kindergarten case.
Okay, that's all very depressing, but we appreciate your candor and insight. James Kallstrom, former assistant director of the FBI, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Sometimes the truth is depressing, isn't it?
It really is. Appreciate your time. And just following up on Mr. Kallstrom, I want to play this, too, because his opinion is not the only one in terms of people that know. Former CIA Mike Baker on this matter that he just referenced of the maid printing out classified information. This was reported in the New York Post over the weekend. Listen to former CIA operative Mike Baker on that topic.
If I am targeting an official, like a Secretary of State, if I'm a foreign intel officer, You know who I'm going after? I'm going after the housekeeper.
Yes.
I'm going after the house manager. I'm going after somebody who has access to that target and that target's environment, their home. And if I find out that that person that I'm targeting, that housekeeper or house manager, whomever, has access to secure information because they're allowed for some unknown reason to walk into a skiff, it's a winner. That's a home run right there.
God help this country if we put that woman in the Oval Office.